Hi! Hey everyone! Welcome to Lunch Break with ATI. I'm Cynthia Collins. I am one of the co-founders of Actors Theater of Indiana, the professional resident theater company at the Center for the Performing Arts here in Carmel, Indiana, USA. And here we are in our little studio theater here at the offices on 3rd Avenue.
Surrounded by all our friends.
Surrounded by all of our very close friends. And speaking of close friends today, the guest is Darrin Murrell.
Hello.
Darrin is awesome. And Darrin is the new Associate Artistic Director here at ATI, along with Judy Fitzgerald, who is now the Artistic Director of ATI. So the winds of change have come to ATI. Yes, I should say the hurricane has come, not just a light breeze. But Darrin graciously came on board to help the company. Judy asked him to join her, and thank goodness you did, because you're incredibly talented, and not just in one area, but like Darrin is an actor. He has been a producer. He has been an artistic director. The list goes on. I'm sure you've been an executive director in certain places. You've run events. I mean, my God, you just have like a plethora.
Done doing that. I don't want to be the guy in charge anymore.
You sound like me. Just tell me what to do.
Right?
Now, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you go just
do
this?
Happy things.
But you actually do, in your career, you really do have a long list. I mean, your resume is really extensive.
Well, if you're going to make a whole career in the arts, you got to be diversified, right?
That's what I always say, too.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. The more you can do, I say, it's become like my catchphrase. The more you can do, the more you work.
That's right.
And the more that you try to teach yourself, you learn, that you dive in, say you're like, well, I've never done that before.
Right.
But I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Because it's going to educate you and it's
Sure.
going to teach you. And if you're not good at it, you'll know.
Yeah,
But
I had
you got to
a
try.
couple of great mentors early on who were executive directors or executive producers who said, they knew that I wanted to direct. That at the time I was a young actor and I had visions of things and I would like to direct, and they were like, yeah, and you'll probably produce some stuff too, but for now I'm going to make you the director of marketing and advertising.
Right.
Why don't you go run the box office for a while? Why don't you run props for this show?
Oh.
And I, whatever it was like, this is something you need to know if you're going to do any of those other jobs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't always learn, like when you go to school, that's what I found, you do have to do certain stuff like that. They make the kids do, like I did, and they still, you have to do certain things. You're not in a show. So you're going to be like backstage for this show, or you do that. But it really is nothing like when you really
ground.
have to do it.
Doing it.
Oh my God.
We open tomorrow.
And hello.
Audience is here in an hour.
Hold the curtain. But yeah, that's really.
I was working in this great theater, one of my favorite theaters in upstate New York, in Rome, New York, the Capitol Theater, grand old vaudeville house, movie house, right?
Yeah.
And my friend Joe was from the town, and he had come back to kind of bring the thing back to life. They were talking about tearing it down, and they were like, no, we got to save it. So I was a friend of Joe's. He brought some friends in to kind of help make it happen. And so I was there during the off season, and we were trying to find things to program into the space to kind of keep the momentum going after the summer theater season. So we had the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra would come in.
Well, that's good.
Right? We were one of their road stops during their season. And they did like 2 or 3 shows a year in there. It was an old counterweight system on the fly rails, right?
God,
the backstage, like old hemp ropes and pulleys and all the stuff. And we had these sound baffles that our tech director had built that would drop down on one of the line sets and then get unhooked, and they would angle, and then that would create good acoustics for the symphony whenever they were there, right? Well, these old line sets had what are called Crosby clips on them.
I know what you
that
mean.
held the wires together.
Yep.
And on a couple of those line sets, the sound baffles, particular, because we didn't use them much, were on the lesser used lines, and those Crosby clips couldn't go up past the pulleys at the top of the system, or else they get jammed up in there. And so I knew that. The people on staff knew that. The symphony had loaded in. They were ready to. We were ready to open the house.
I smell disaster.
5 minutes to house open. I'm now changed into my tuxedo to do house management duties, and I walk in the back of the house, and I see one of those sound baffles going, screaming, "No!" Run to the back of the stage, and their stage manager had thought maybe they should be a little higher, so he was trying to take them up, and that clip had gotten stuck, and here I'm at, so I strip off the jacket and the tie, and I'm climbing up the catwalk, and I get up there, it's like and it's jammed in that pulley, so I had a hammer and a screwdriver. I'm like, tink, tink.
Right,
And finally it's like,
yeah.
and those cables whip by your face.
Oh,
But
God.
we got it done.
But you know what? Those kind of
OSHA standards.
Oh, yeah, right. Sure. Union? Oh, what union? Right? I mean, it's those kind of stories and those kind of things that are, well, first thing, it makes for good stories, right? All the
Sure,
stuff that you go through in theater. And I mean, with Actors Theater of Indiana, when we started, we had nothing. We did everything. And like all those stories were like, oh, God, we always talk about we should just write a book. It's like the ATI memoirs, you know? But it would take so many people, you included, because you've been an actor on the ATI stage, you have directed ATI productions. I mean, you must have some stories too, believe me, because I do. And you know, and so there were moments we were right there together for some of those things. And but it makes for good stories. But it also, to me, it's like the experiences are like, okay, you know, now what have we learned? What have we learned from that?
Sure.
You know, what have we learned? What's gonna, you know, everything like teaches you something. I don't care, good or bad experience, everything. And you have been through so many things like that, you know.
And I think, you know, the audience only gets to see, you know, the finished product.
Of course.
And so often, like in movies or whatever, sometimes you get to see like the gag reel, the blooper reel, the outtakes and things like that.
Yes.
And that's so much fun. And I often think, boy, what fun would it be for, you know, patrons of a particular theater to be able to see some of the things that go wrong in rehearsals and, you know, in the backstage and things like that. If there were a camera rolling all the time.
I wouldn't be able to show that because I would be bleeped out of every other word. And actually, people have caught some of those things on their phones, on their iPhones, and they're like, Cindy, look what I got. And I'm like, you can't ever show that to anyone.
Right.
Ever.
Now, there are a couple of theaters that are experimenting with this concept, which I kind of love,
Yeah.
the subscribers for the subscription price, in addition to getting tickets to the shows, you also get access to a live stream in the rehearsal hall, like during the process.
Yeah.
And you can log in anytime and like watch the thing coming together. And sometimes you get asked questions as a subscriber patron, like an opinion on a costume design or a color or a choice or this or that. And then it's kind of active participation in the process more than just passively coming to see the show. I find that kind of interesting. You know, that's something that's never been possible before.
I know.
But now, in the age of streaming media,
Of course. Yeah,
you
of
know,
course. Yeah.
We're in everybody's living room all the time.
Oh, yes, we are, from our home to yours. And I mean, yeah, that is pretty interesting, actually. But you don't want to give like too much away. Like
That's
there's
the
that
thing.
fine line. You don't want to give too much away.
But
you don't
the
want
subscribers
to, you know,
self-govern. You know, they're like, oh, I don't want to. No spoilers.
Well,
or
spoiler
they're like,
alert,
I want to see everything. I wish I were there myself.
Right. That's true. And it's an investment. Like and they feel invested.
Exactly.
You feel like kind of invested in the show. You're like, oh, I saw the rehearsal process.
Right.
You know, I saw what happened there. And oh, they changed that. Oh,
and
that's
for the
not,
artists and the creators, it's bringing that audience into the process with you a little bit. So perhaps it would even raise, you know, the consciousness of who we're there for, and you know,
and how much work goes into it. That's the thing too. You always try to educate people on what goes into a production. It's quite a bit. Even small productions, you know, and everything, and all the working and moving pieces, as you know, that go into it, and the artistic team and the designers. I mean, everybody working together to try to make this one production happen. But I mean, I know you have, and obviously you have a long line of that. How did you? I mean, wait. Did you go to Ball State?
I did.
Where did you? Okay, that's what I thought. So you're
ago.
you went to school with Linda Gogi.
I did.
You.
I did.
And I
go to
found
school
that
with
out,
Linda
and I was
Goki.
like, what? And Linda Goki.
Oh, we
is
had so much fun together.
right. Oh, she's a blast.
I think we only shared the stage once. We did, and it wasn't at Ball State, but it was in Muncie at the community theater,
Oh, yeah.
at Muncie Civic Theater.
Yes.
Production of The Wiz. It was a multicultural production of The Wiz.
So what? Wait a minute.
Yeah, and this great guy, James Williams. Oh, God bless James Williams, and he's still up in Fort Wayne. I love James so much, but he directed the piece,
Yeah.
and like I said, it was diverse casting, and
Yeah.
so I was the Tin Man, and Linda was Eveline.
Oh my. Of course.
She
Right.
was brilliant.
Right. Well, she's a blast. I mean, she's a supporter of Actors Theater of Indiana. She's a friend of ours, and she houses. She and Don Katz house almost all of our out of town actors when they come in. So God bless Linda Goki and Don Katz.
That's right.
You know, but yeah, I found out you went to school with her. I was like, what? Oh my gosh! But yeah, so you went to Ball State. So you're a Hoosier.
Yep.
You Hoosier, born
Yep,
and bred.
Yep.
Where were you born?
Selma, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's Muncie, basically,
it?
just outside of Muncie, rural sort of farm community, suburban Muncie,
Yeah.
suburban Muncie,
Well,
as if Muncie's the metropolis.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And then you went to Ball State,
Went
right?
to Ball State. I had already started doing summer stock even when I was in high school.
Yeah.
There were a couple summer stocks around the state, and
Mm-hmm.
I had drama teachers in high school who encouraged me and said,
Well,
"Hey, look, I see you doing this thing
I
up there.
believe
You
that.
should go to this place."
I
And
believe
so
that.
I already had a little resume when I got to Ball State, and then continued to work stock contracts and stuff while I was there, and
Yeah.
pretty soon was.
Yeah, I know it is. And
Off
you just
doing it.
off to you graduate, you got to get your gigs and off you go.
Yep.
Yeah. What and now you even live you and Julie
Same place.
now are in you're almost like on a farm. You
It is a
guys-
farm. It's my family's farm. So it's
Yeah.
not the farm I grew up on. I actually grew up in the town of Selma, but my dad's parents were farmers, and they had farm property.
Yeah.
And it had been in the family. It went back to its sort of European or white settling. They settled the land, purchased it, I think, from government sale, but which had been part of a broken contract with the natives. But at any
course.
rate, yeah. They've been on that property since about 1850. And
Oh my God, I didn't know this.
built the house with the timber off of the creek, and
Wait, so the house is still
it's the bones of the house that I live in
right,
are
the structure,
still.
because you've obviously probably done.
That,
I mean, it's
well,
gone.
not a lot. It's rustic living on the farm.
Oh my God.
But when we moved back, my wife and I had been living in Portland, Oregon. Was kind of our last stop in our travels before we came back to the area.
Yeah.
But we came back to have kids. My parents are still around and,
Oh, that's
and in
good.
that
That's nice.
community. And nobody in the family was able to care for that property at the time, and its future was uncertain within the family. So we said, well,
We'll
come in
We'll
because
take it.
we're not.
Yeah.
We don't have very high standards of living. We can a little bit,
We'll live in
little
the
bit of
barn.
plumbing, a little
barn,
bit,
it's fine. Even like the
1940s
Amish.
electricity, it's fine.
Oh my
What is-
God! But I know because it's out there. Right? It's probably so quiet.
Completely quiet. It was great for the kids to grow up in because
Yeah.
if you scream real loud, a neighbor might hear. But otherwise, you have your run of the place, and we've got woods and a creek
That's what I'm
and
saying. Like,
meadow.
how much
and,
property is
well,
there?
by the time we got there, originally it was like 300 acres was the family property, but by the time we got there, it was down to like 30. So,
But that's
over
still 30 acres. That's
Yeah,
a
it's a
good
lot.
chunk of
yeah,
property.
and neighbors are farming the actual tillable
That's what I was going to
land.
say because I think
'Cause
Julie
I'm
said something
not a
about
farmer,
that.
yeah.
They're using the property.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great though.
Sure, yeah, we've got fields on both sides of the house property, and that's what buffers us from the road are those fields. And,
Yeah.
they alternate beans and corn every other
Right,
year.
because you
and-
have to because the soil you have
Yep.
to alternate that stuff. Right,
Yep.
soybeans and then corn.
And then
is
we
that
keep
right?
our own little garden plot, of course,
Yes.
So
Yes.
we
Oh, you
over
have
the
to.
years
You
have
come
done
from
that.
farmers. You have to.
When
do
we first got
something.
back, it was my annual. We haven't done it in years, but when the kids were young, every year I would take things out of the garden and put them together for some sort of state fair culinary arts entry.
Oh my God!
because you can do that,
I
just as a
know.
community member. So I
Yeah.
would enter, pickles and
Oh my
apple butter
God.
and we have tons of mulberries on the property, and people don't do a
Oh,
ton with
yes,
mulberries, but I
yes.
love working with them.
Yeah.
So I'd do like a mulberry pie or a
Oh,
mulberry jam or something like
my
that.
God.
One year I won the Ghirardelli's chocolate championship for the whole
It's
state.
like my favorite
I
chocolate.
got to be on the morning news, had me in for the cooking segment.
One more thing
I
he
got
does.
a huge
What? It's
basket
not
from
enough.
Ghirardelli.
It's not enough. But now you're like,
My pies never
You're-
won. I was
you're-
always sad about that. It
oh.
was those Amish women.
yeah,
got
it's
the
kind of
corner on
hard.
that.
It's stiff competition at that state
Oh, for
fair.
sure.
'Cause Judy's sister Kathy enters every year,
Yeah.
and she actually wins
Yeah.
stuff. She's got first place since
Yeah.
God, what was it last year? But it's like major competition.
My wife won Indiana. I think it was the humanities award for writing a story about native Indiana cooking, and she wrote
Wow.
a story about the mulberries on our property, and about kind of using the mulberries as a metaphor
Yeah.
for, but it was this beautiful sort of little story
Wow.
that she wrote, and won this literary award for it at the fair.
Yeah,
one
and
year.
she's a talent too, Julie Lynn Barbary, your wife.
Yeah, I know.
She's a talent. I mean, the two of you, and imagine your kids. Like you're like your own Osmonds. It's like you're a band. You all play instruments.
We
you
do
all
have.
sing.
We're playing this weekend at Minnetrista Museum and Gardens in Muncie at the Enchanted Luminaria Walk.
Oh my
Doing
gosh!
the 8 o'clock slot on Friday night. Playing
Wait,
some Christmas
how old are your kids
tunes.
now? Are they in college or what? What are they
Yeah,
doing?
almost. Well, one's in college. One at IU is 20, and
Mm-hmm.
then one is a junior in high school.
Okay, all right. So you still got all that going on. You're going to have more college,
Yeah.
more university.
More college to go.
Tuition.
We're doing a campus visit next week down to IU.
Well,
He's also interested in IU.
Good.
and, yeah,
Are
yeah.
they interested in the arts? People ask us that all the time. Are they interested in the arts because they grew up with it?
That's the thing,
You know?
and it's just like a part of their life. I don't think it's the passion of their life. It's
Right.
just one of the things they grew up with,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is they're now discovering makes them somewhat unique among their
Very
peer
unique.
sets. But definitely artistically bent. Both brilliant writers, really great wordsmiths, and write a lot.
Well, they get that from you and Julie. You guys, because you write well too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think that's just that's in their DNA.
But of course,
probably.
they're of a digital generation, so their form of storytelling is coming out through games, digital games, phone games, computer games, and of course, there is storytelling involved in
There is.
that game creation.
And it's a big industry. And
Absolutely.
It's like you can make some dough, right?
Yeah.
With
And
that.
starting to think about like the sound design aspects of the gaming
Yeah,
industry, so that
yeah.
brings the music and
Yep.
and the storytelling together in this new.
See what the arts does? It
digital
teaches you
format.
everything.
Yep.
The performing arts teaches you, like you can spread out and span out and do other things, and that's what's so wonderful about, in my opinion, about the arts.
Absolutely.
You grow up with it. Doesn't mean you're going into it,
Right.
but it's an integral part of life.
Yeah.
And I think for everyone.
And still, even though maybe not performing in theater is
Right.
still like a major part of my college students' life. They are. So they have a job and a volunteer position both at IU. Have both years they've been there. Their job is working electrics at the MAC at the Music Arts Center.
Wow.
They run spotlights and run cables and work backstage
Oh, that's
and run
great.
all the electrics for
Yeah.
those for
Yeah.
the opera, for
Yeah.
the symphonies, for all of that.
Yeah.
And then their volunteer position is to usher at the auditorium
Yes.
for all of the
Yes, I know.
Broadway touring shows.
For the tours that come through.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
and
yes.
concerts and things like
Yes,
that. So.
yes. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, and IU's beautiful. The
Oh,
campus is
so great,
gorgeous.
yeah.
It's so damn big. Because Lizzie is going. Obviously,
Yeah.
Lizzie's going there, and I'm like, oh God, this is huge. I'm like, I'm walking there. Of course, I'm walking everywhere, exploring everywhere.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
got it, the nooks and crannies, And we.
I'm just grateful
But
to
I
get
love
down
that.
there for the food in Bloomington.
Well,
The
have you
restaurants, the
gone
ethnic restaurants
to?
are so
Well,
amazing.
and also, who knew, right?
Right.
We had no idea.
Yeah.
Right? So there is this restaurant down there. There's a few cool places, obviously.
Turkish, Korean.
Right, right.
Oh my gosh.
But what's the one, I think it's called Farm Bloomington.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the name of
Yeah.
it? It's exceptional, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, we've been there twice, just twice. And I'm like, this is fantastic food. And to find that, I'm not a snob, but to find that in Indiana like that, I'm sorry,
Yeah. No.
it is really like, it's the little things, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, God, this is good food.
Yeah.
Really good.
Next time, try. There's a Korean place and it's like so unassuming, and it's kind of down in this strip mall that's kind of dead. It's not a full strip mall.
I think I know
it's
what
off
you're
of
talking
10th
about.
Street, just across 46 from campus.
I think I know what
on
you're talking
10th.
about because her cousin, Lizzie's cousin, Isabella, went to IU.
Oh.
And gave us the full B-Town tour.
Yeah.
And showed all the little places.
Yeah.
And I think she showed us that place.
Yeah.
And Lizzie's into all that stuff too. You
Yeah.
know, she's into all that. There's a great coffee place there, that cool coffee place. You go downstairs. What the heck's it called? I can't remember what it's
The
called.
Chesh?
No. It starts with an S, I think. And it's just this cool. Kids go there, they study.
Uh-huh.
They go have it's real. It just looks like it's out of like when I went to college,
Yeah.
back in the 80s.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
farther back. It's farther back than that. It's just such a cool place.
Right.
And a very eclectic.
Yes.
Very eclectic. And plus the coffee stuff's great. They make great drinks. But anyway, now we're off on a tangent about IU, of course, because that's what happens. But when here you are, you're growing up, right? You're a kid in Indiana.
Uh-huh.
You come from farmers, right? Right.
On one side, yeah.
Right. So where's the arts come in? How did you even think that you wanted to do this? Right?
So, yeah, my grandfather on my mother's side was a World War II vet, served in the Hourglass Brigade, went from the Aleutian Islands all the way down and around into the Philippines,
he
ended
was
up in
in the
Okinawa.
Pacific Theater.
Yeah, the whole thing. And he was wounded quite badly, but came back and lived a full life, worked at a factory, auto manufacturing after he got back here. But he loved old movies, particularly comedies. Loved Abbott and Costello and Laurel and
that's
Hardy,
right up your alley,
and
Yeah.
and all of those old films. And he loved Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, and he loved like Cary Grant and all of those. So that was what he and I did together. We watched these old movies whenever they were on, and if they would ever come into the theaters in Muncie for a classic showing or whatever, we'd go to those. And then my grandmother loved television. She was his wife, loved TV. And so we together watched almost religiously every night The Tonight Show. Who often had all of these old comics and old entertainers on, and I was watching Jack Benny on there, and Milton Berle and whatever, and so then of course I was influenced heavily by that, and came to understand. I also loved the Muncie Public Library. The old Carnegie Library was just so densely packed with just fallen apart books, just treasures that nobody knew were there, and you could get in and dig and find all kinds of things. So I discovered by researching there on the weekends that a lot of these people I loved from these movies started in vaudeville and started in theater.
They all started in vaudeville.
And then I got to know radio and listen to the
vaudeville.
old radio broadcasts.
All of them.
So,
Fanny Bryce.
Yeah.
All started in radio and vaudeville. All of them. Then they moved into Bob Hope and all the people that we would see as kids in these old movies.
Yeah.
All of them came from stage and vaudeville.
And also at that time, late 60s, early 70s, in the on TV, on a lot of variety shows, they would feature the Broadway casts of whatever was on Broadway at the time.
Ed Sullivan
The Ed
did all
Sullivan
of it.
Show, absolutely. But you turn into Mike Douglas.
Yo!
Or,
I love the Mike Douglas show! Oh God, he would have everybody on.
Right?
He would have everyone on. I mean, he really ran the gamut. Like
Yeah.
he really, he spotlighted a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I watched that show all the time.
Broadway. I got to know Broadway.
Sure.
I knew who Ethel Merman was by the time I could speak, and
Well, my mother loved her, so she was in the house like from the very beginning.
Right.
You know?
So I had an awareness of it through that, and then when I came to understand. I remember doing, play. They would do like the school play or whatever in grade school, and I was always excited when they were going to act out Stone Soup or whatever it was, and can I be the unicorn or whatever it is, and then by the time I got to, I was in the 5th grade. They were doing a talent show, and asked me to be the host, and so I came up with this whole routine of I mimicked.
Oh my God.
Oh, what's his name from the Gong Show?
Oh my God,
Chuck Barris.
Chuck Barris.
I had a whole Chuck Barris routine.
Oh my God, he was a trip.
And then I was doing 4-H, and I would do the talent show, and I did like Gallagher's watermelon smash routine. I talked another kid into doing Who's on First with me one year.
Yeah.
And then in high school, of course, I was doing all the plays and whatever at school. And
the Gong Show. J.P. Morgan, Jamie Farr, Nipsey Russell. They were always the judges, right?
Yep.
The unknown comic.
Yeah, the unknown comic.
Gene, the dancing machine.
I love Gene.
Oh, this show was a trip, though. It was. It was out there, right?
Yeah, I
but
watched
as
it.
kids, religiously.
Yeah.
And Mike Douglas. My God, he would have on. Oh no, it was Merv Griffin. Who would always have on Toady Fields.
Oh yeah.
God, she was hilarious.
Yeah.
They were really good friends. And he'd have her on all the time. And then she got cancer.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Merv.
Yeah.
Merv Griffin.
Yeah.
He got so excited.
Hilarious. But she got cancer, and then he went to the hospital one time with the cameras.
Oh.
Do you remember that one?
No.
Yeah, I remember that one specifically. Took the camera. She was in. She's like, "Come on in." Like, yeah. Oh yeah. He's totally like, we're doing a show in the hospital
Excuse me
room.
if I don't get up.
Right. Pardon my gown. This old thing, anyway, okay, so we digress going down memory lane, but talk about, let me just, I gotta wrap it up here. We're taking up all the time in the world, but let me ask you now, here you are, right, here we are, and here you are with ATI.
Yes.
And I say, thank goodness, thank you.
Oh,
and Judy thanks you. And my father thanks you, my mother thanks you, my sister thanks you. But, I mean, this is not a really new role for you because you've done stuff like this before. Right. So that's why, boom, you popped into, the head when trying to find somebody, I think Judy and I were both like, she's like, Darrin. I'm like, oh my God, Darrin, of course, right?
Well,
what do you? We've known you for a while.
Yeah, I love ATI, and that was when Julie and I were deciding to move back here. We knew it was going to be a different landscape in terms of, possibilities and opportunities, for union actors. There's just not a lot going on in a drivable distance from where we live.
No, there's not.
And of course had the other administrative experience, and I was lucky enough when we first got back that I landed a couple of jobs leading community organizations. That Muncie Civic Theater they talked about that Lynn and I were at, they needed an executive director as soon as I got back, and so I was able to do that for a number of years, and had a couple of other positions like that in the community. But it's a different, as you know, I mean, nothing negative about this, but it's a very different area of the arts, the community theater versus the union professional theater.
Of course, but you're a union actor.
That's the thing.
You're a union actor. You're a pro.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you know how that.
You miss that at a point,
Exactly.
And so I decided to really focus on getting back into full professional work.
As you should, because you're excellent, and you're an excellent actor. I think your first show with ATI was The Odd Couple.
Yes.
And you were freaking hilarious in that show.
That was the best.
I didn't even know you, and I was like,
we had the tornado show. Do you remember that?
Yes, there was. I know. I was.
You were not there.
I was not here. I was out of town. I was in New York. I was back home.
Yeah.
I was not here.
We're in the middle of the show. like literally the middle of the show, and we hear sirens, and there's radio calls coming in, and there's a tornado headed right for Carmel.
Yes.
And so we had to get into this safe room, and there were people, security guards, up on the top of the parking structure, like watching it come in and like letting us know when they thought it was going to be safe, and it wasn't going to be safe for a while. So Don and I were standing in the corner, and we're like, what are we going to do? We got to, I guess we just, I mean, we're past the time the show would have been over already, and we've got this whole audience sitting in this safe room. And I said, why don't we just do the rest of the show for them? I said, let's just pull some furniture around and pull some blocks around and grab whatever props we think we need and finish the show out in this safe room.
It was one of the studios.
Yeah.
It was
one
an
of the rehearsal
inner rehearsal
rooms.
studio.
Yeah.
So it was big. It's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
And I remember Judy's like, okay, you're not going to believe what happened. And I was like, oh God. I'm like, what? God, I'm like, what happened? What's next, right? And she's like, and they finished the show in the rehearsal room, and there's pictures, there's photos of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is kind of brilliant.
The audience will never forget it.
They'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And you won't either.
Right.
You won't either. It's an experience that I mean, that's what, because I will say, because actors, and you used to rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
You used to, that's not working. Okay, we got to do something
Gotta
else.
do something.
We got to do something. The show must go on. We got to figure it out. But yes, that was God. Oh my God, everybody was a buzz about it, and the cast are like, you're not gonna believe it. And I was like, yeah, we did. Oh God. But anyway, all right, I got to wrap this up.
Oh.
We could sit here all day and chit chat. People could have their tea and crumpets.
Yes,
and
enjoy your lunch.
Enjoying their lunch and falling
Have a
asleep.
memorable lunch. What's your most memorable lunch?
Memorable lunch?
Yeah. Do you have a lunch that in your mind is
like my
oh,
food,
I'll never forget that lunch.
like food wise?
I don't know. A food experience?
Oh my God!
Setting?
Well, I have food experiences, of course, but not necessarily like lunch, because I'm not really like a lunch person. Like my brother's an attorney, and attorneys go to lunch. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what's lunch? I don't have time to go to lunch. Lunch? I'm like, I'm lucky if I eat at night. I'm like, I'm like, what? So it's not like so much lunch, but like food experiences.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Like I'm like I said, I'm not a snob, but I'm pretty particular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty particular, and some of the best restaurants. I mean, of course, I grew up, where I grew up in New Jersey,
Sure.
and then New York. You have the Italian.
Yeah.
The Italians know what they're doing there,
True.
And the seafood, you
Oh,
got
the fresh
you got the
seafood. Oh.
seafood there. Though I will say, Monterey here in Carmel, Monterey on Main Street, is probably one of the finest places, and some of the best meals. I've been there twice. I have ever had. They are exceptional, exceptional. And a pretty good Italian place here is Roma.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because
No,
they're
I
fresh.
love
They make
Roma.
everything
Yeah.
fresh. They're the real deal.
Yeah.
They're
It's one of my
the
favorites.
real deal. So that's a great place too. I've always enjoyed my meals there. And Mama Carolla's is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Another Italian place here. But back home, I'm with the Italian pastries and everything, and the bagels. And I am a snob about that. You know what I mean? So
Well, I will tease one of my most memorable lunches. We can talk about it another time. I once had lunch in the garden house behind the main house with Roddy McDowell at his home in Los Angeles.
Okay. What is happening? And I'm sure he was like one of the nicest people in the world.
One of the most incredible
because
people.
He had a reputation of being such a good person.
He was the best.
Yeah, like across the board, he just was kind. That's why everybody he got along with everyone. It seemed.
And he had a beautiful home.
Oh, of course he did.
Lovely.
Of course, I have no doubt. No doubt.
And he had in the garden, hidden behind some greenery, he had a statue of him as the ape from the Planet of the Apes.
Yes!
Somebody had bought it for him at a
Yes!
prop auction
Oh!
and given it to him.
Oh!
It's like, I never get to show this to anyone. I'm going to show
my
you. Pulled back
God.
these vines, and there's
Oh!
Cornelius.
Cornelius, right. And Kim, come on, who was the Kim,
Novak.
No, Kim Novak, wasn't it, or was it Kim Novak
Was
who
it?
played? Okay, she was Stella in A Streetcar.
Yeah, Kim Novak.
Okay, yeah, she played his wife
Yeah,
in that.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Well, that is memorable. I don't have any lunches like that. I can name a few dinners and experiences, but no, not a lunch.
There's a lovely chicken salad on a bed of lettuce.
Oh my God. I wouldn't have even eaten. I would have just been like, just tell me.
Well, and he
Just tell me
was reading.
stories.
He and another guy, it was just three of us, me and Roddy and Tom Amandes, who's an actor.
Yeah.
And he and Tom were reading together from a script for a show that we were possibly going to
That's
do.
something you just don't forget.
Right.
You don't forget that stuff. I mean, that talk about memorable.
Right.
Like that's when you do remember every little, every little thing that happened because you're like, I can't forget this.
Yeah.
You want to take everything in. You're like, I cannot forget this moment.
And he did not forget me. Like 2 years later, he was coming through Chicago with a tour of Dial M for Murder.
Yeah.
And I get home one day and there's a message on my tape, the old...
Did you save it?
Yeah, well, somewhere in
Come
all
on.
my boxes,
Oh,
there's one of those little tapes from the answering machines that
Come
has
on,
Roddy
yes.
McDowell on it saying,
Oh, you have to
I
save that.
thought I would call you while I was in Chicago, so remember our lunch.
My
if
friend,
you'd like to come to the show.
That's another. Okay, we are going to wrap this up. But my friend Tom Miller worked with Madeline Kahn. They did Hello Dolly together.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, I have to play you the message from Madeline Kahn. Again, on the tape. We all had, little tapes.
Little mini.
She's like,
mini
Tom, that voice of hers, right? Oh, darling. And I said, Tom, you can never, ever. This tape is like, put this somewhere.
Right.
Put this in a case and lock it, because obviously she's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have this. This is gold.
Mm.
When you have that stuff, you don't get rid of it.
Right.
And you don't forget the stories that people tell you like that. Oh my God. Anyway, we could go on, but we won't. Darrin, thank you for being here. You're awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with Actors Theater of Indiana. You are an asset anywhere you go.
It shows.
But, how do I look in this dress? That's my asset look. But we're going to take it on the road. But anyway, thank you. And thank you for joining us, Lunch Break with ATI, which is turning into a dinner break with ATI. But I'm Cynthia Collins, one of the co-founders of Actors Theater of Indiana. Coming up next, though, is Celebrate the Holidays with ATI,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And that is
two shows in one.
That's right. Two headliners,
Yep.
Wayne Powers and Katie Gentry, two different shows at the Studio Theater.
Yep.
The 12th and 13th is Wayne. 14th, 15th, wait, is it 12th, 13th?
I asked you if I needed to know
Well,
numbers, and
right.
you said no.
Listen, go to the website, atistage.org. Wayne is for 2 nights, Katie's for 3. They're doing their own cabaret acts. And Wayne does a lot of Sinatra and the older singers, and Katie will do some Judy Garland and some religious music and some of her spiritual stuff. She's got a great voice. My God, she's incredible. And Wayne is calls himself one of the last saloon singers.
Yeah.
So if you want that nostalgia,
Yeah.
that's the guy for you. But they're both wonderful.
And Judy and I will be around to tie it all together.
Oh yes, and Darrin and Judy will be there and to make merry and be holly and jolly. And so yeah, go to the website atistage.org, or you can call the box office at 317-843-3800. And I think it's going to be 2 fantastic shows. Really something different. You're going to see it's really something that's, you can bring your kids, but it's really an adult fare. Go out, have dinner, have some cocktails. Come and have some cocktails at the Studio Theater and watch the show. And so it's a nice evening. Anyway, I'm wrapping it up. Thank you, Darrin.
Thank you.
I'm Cindy, and we'll see you probably next Wednesday for Lunch Break with ATI. Toodaloo.